I think everybody here knows me now. I am Fran Bambaji, and among other things, practitioner of human design. And during my teachings, I sometimes transmit light language. This comes through me spontaneously, and although I do not know what it is that I'm saying or what is being communicated through me, it feels powerful, and I believe on some level that you absorb what you need to absorb from it, in whatever way you need to take it. I am not a doctor. I cannot give medical advice. Well, I can, but it might not do you any good. I am not an authority over you in any way. I present material to you that I find interesting and stimulating, and I offer it in a spirit of exploration and sharing. So let us start by relaxing into our space, by taking some deep breaths, by grounding. Settle yourself down. Wherever it is that you're sitting, close your eyes and bring your attention to your breath. Softly breathe in and out in your own rhythm, not pushing, not pulling, just being with the breath as it enters and leaves your body. Maybe you can feel the breath as it enters the nose. Maybe you can't. It doesn't matter either way. Bring your attention to the belly. Feel how it moves with the breath. Out as you breathe in, and falling naturally as you exhale. You don't have to make it happen. It happens naturally because it is the mechanic of breathing. Imagine you're watching a baby or an animal at rest. This is how they breathe. You may notice you have a narrative running in the mind. Don't pay any attention. Just keep bringing yourself back to the belly, back to the breath. Stay with the motion of the belly and rest into that. Release any anxiety or stress that you are carrying from your day with every exhale. Release any tension from the vessel. Put down any burdens that you are carrying. You don't need them, not for the next hour or so anyway. And they will surely be ready for you, waiting if you want to pick them up again afterwards. Keep breathing. And keeping your eyes closed, bring yourself gently, gently back into your space. Become aware of your surroundings. Again, take some conscious breaths. And when you feel ready, open your eyes. The title that came to me for tonight, it was The Continuity of Change. I woke up with it in my head one day last week. This doesn't happen to me very often. And I wasn't given anything other than the title, which might have been helpful, but that's fine, because my mind had a really good idea of the marvelous, life-changing presentation that I was going to give you. But when I sat down to make some notes, I ended up writing something entirely different from what I had planned, and therefore had my own experience of change. I've talked about change before in various talks that we've had to do with the new year and the change of the energies and the big change that is coming in 2027. But it seems a bit more exploration of the subject is available now. Change is something that we all deal with every day of our lives. As a species, we do not deal well with sudden or big change. Not really. I like to think that I am someone who is very adaptable to change, but the truth is that I can welcome and adapt to change that I have anticipated or that I understand. But outside of these conditions, and probably some others that are programmed in, outside of these, change can make me as uncomfortable as it makes the rest of humanity. So what is the problem? Why is change so hard to accept? Acceptance, or the lack of it, is probably the whole point, really. We may not always be aware of it, but our bodies are in a constant state of flux, as is the planet and the universe and beyond. Many of these changes go by quite unnoticed by us. But I've been putting some awareness on this, and the level of moment by moment change is quite astonishing. So I'm going to take you on a little journey. So please, again, if it feels correct for you, get comfortable, close your eyes. There's nothing for you to do except listen gently, but you could explore with me if you would like to do that. So just breathing in your own natural rhythm again, but be really aware of your breath. And particularly be aware of the fact that each breath is different from the last. That every breath is different from every other breath. You could breathe in and out of a paper bag and still each breath would be different. The level of gases you'd be breathing in would be present in greater or lesser amounts. The body that you are in would be in a slightly different position. The cells in the vessel would have moved around a bit. There's different blood going through the heart. The neurons would have been busy firing off messages. Stay with your breath and stay with your body. The air that you are breathing in will find its way into the cells of the body, into the red blood cells, which live for around 120 days, so 4 months, give or take. White blood cells, they live fast and die young. Their lifespan ranges from a few days to just a few weeks. Traveling with that air into the blood cells, we can travel into the heart, where the cells of the heart muscle can live for around 40 years. And keep moving through the body, resting gentle awareness on the liver. It doesn't matter if you know where the liver is or not, just be aware of it. It has consciousness. It will know that you are aware of it. Liver cells can live for about 16 months. Our attention comes to the colon. The cells here are more of the live fast, die young variety. Around 4 days is the average before they die off and are replaced, changed. And bring awareness right up into the head now, where the brain cells can be found. Cells that typically last a lifetime. The neurons in the cerebral cortex are not replaced when they die. Okay, follow your breath gently in and out a couple of times. So many processes going on inside this vessel all the time. In your own rhythm, follow your breath out of the body, keeping awareness as the breath passes over the skin, where the cells live for around a month. And now come back into your room. And open your eyes if they've been closed and come back to the presentation. So you can see from our little journey there that the body itself is no stranger to change. Charles Darwin is supposed to have said something about survival of the fittest, but what he actually said was, it is not the strongest or the most intelligent of the species who will survive, but the one that is most adaptable to change. Heraclitus was an ancient Greek philosopher. He told us that the only constant in life is change. And he also said that you cannot step into the same river twice. Permanence is an illusion. I mean, there is a constant in the universe, and that constant is change. Nothing is permanent, and the entire universe is in a constant state of flux or motion, rolling ceaselessly into eternity. And how can anything really stay the same on a planet that is spinning on its axis at approximately 1,000 miles an hour, that is moving around its sun at around 67,000 miles an hour, and through space at 492,126 miles an hour? The Buddha taught a doctrine of impermanence, and it is a central tenet of Buddhism to this day. The Buddhist view is that everything is in a state of flux, ever changing, ever moving, and that permanence is a mere illusion. And it is this illusion, according to the Buddha, which causes all sorts of problems for us humans. One of the problems we face is that we cling to something as if it were permanent. And by embracing the illusion of permanence, we set ourselves up for suffering. We become discouraged and afraid when this illusion is shattered and things change. It is not the life events that cause us to suffer so much. Rather, it is our attachment to permanence. We feel betrayed by life when we have the expectation that something will last forever, when in fact nothing is forever. That is not to say that to feel pain and to suffer is wrong, and that it can be done away with entirely. No. Once we recognize the reality that everything is impermanent, we can mitigate the pain and suffering caused by the adherence to such false notions, and we can live a life more rooted in reality. It allows a life more in tune with and more accepting of change. A life that allows change, that embraces it as natural, as part of all that is a life that allows for us to become more adaptable in the face of life's many challenges. Instead of trying to stand firm and hold steady, fighting the current of time and change, which is exhausting and fruitless, we let go and allow the changes to occur. People are often afraid of making changes in their own personal lives because change is so often very difficult, at least initially, and it places us in a new set of circumstances which is often very uncomfortable. We prefer the safety of our condition because we know what to expect. It's kind of the devil, you know, huh? But there are few challenges and risks taken when people leave things the way they are. Again, though, this is an illusion. By realizing that change is in fact a law of nature and embracing it as such, it makes it so much easier for us to make changes in our own lives. And we all face changes every day, whether it is a simple change in the weather or in our schedule, or even an unexpected change of the seasons. Change affects us all, and we each deal with change differently. It is interesting to contemplate that we can never return to where we have been, because it's just not there anymore. Even 30 seconds ago is not there anymore. You cannot find it in your current experience. So reminiscing about the past and identifying with the past won't help us regain the past. It won't help us to regain or retain our balance in this moment, in this here now. Some changes are slow, giving the false impression that nothing is changing. For example, the atmospheric womb that enables biological activity on the surface of our present-day Earth was completely devoid of oxygen a few billion years ago. And our beautiful planet has been through a whole plethora of freezing ice ages and simmering hot episodes throughout its history. Ever slower changes occur on much larger scales throughout the universe all the time. The universe and its galaxies and the stars in them, they must all have been born, and so eventually they will die. We know that before long our host star dies, within about 1 billion years or so from now. At that point, the increasing brightness of the sun will boil off all the oceans on Earth, and then all forms of life as we know it will cease to exist on Earth. Certain parties will have their carbon zero world at that point, and much good may it do them. So what can we do? We are an audience to a play that will really only continue for a short while. We can enjoy the show while it lasts. And we should not complain, since we never had to pay to watch this show. And anyway, who would we complain to? What address is it to which we could forward our complaints? All the employees we notice are just temporary actors in the same show. All the world's a stage. Do we really have any choice but to maintain humility about our temporary status or possessions, to remain kind to those who share our transient fortunes? Because everything, and I mean everything, will eventually be gone. As I was preparing for tonight, I looked at human design, of course, and I saw how many gates and channels are concerned with change. There are channels of mutation, transitoriness, of initiation, discovery, exploration, and maturation. There are gates of revolution, direction, breakthrough, biting through, splitting apart, and opposition. Increase and growth is another, and is all about change. And it's also about the trap of expectation. Almost all human beings are at the expectation station. It is a mark of being human. The dream that the future holds a greater promise than the now. Somewhere inside us, we wait for our lives to improve, for a great day somewhere in the future when finally all will be exactly as we dream it can be, We will have all the money we need. Our relationships will be perfect. And we will have absolute freedom to do all the things we've always wanted to do. We have within our genetics a trait that is responsible for keeping us always sitting at the expectation station. And it has a lot to do with the way we entangle our desires with our minds. The moment that desire becomes entangled with the projections of the mind, disappointment can be the only result. One of the changes that we are particularly unskilled at dealing with is death, which is kind of crazy, really, given that it is as certain as constant change. Our cells, all those cells with their different lifespans, they're all programmed for decay. And because we have brought into the illusion of time, our brains perceive time as flowing by, and so we can have huge anxiety about time running out. But all of life is in a cycle of growth and decay. In the gene keys, there is a complex codon group in the DNA known as the ring of life and death. Life is programmed to follow certain archetypal processes. Now, within this codon group, we can see that all cellular life begins with the third gene key, or the third gate, and it ends with the 42nd. The third catches the essence of the beginning of life through its keynotes of innovation and innocence. All life must innovate, it must adapt, beginning in innocence and then gaining in experience. Through the 42nd gene key, life ends with detachment and celebration. Spiritual essence detaches itself from form, just as we human beings must detach ourselves from those who have already passed on. At the highest level, all death is really a cause for celebration. Expectation in and of itself is not a bad thing. It can be very useful to see how we react to our expectations, to measure how much we trust in life. We can use awareness around expectation to see how attached or detached we are. It is actually possible to hold an expectation without being attached to it. If we are able to expand our consciousness and raise our frequency, we will remember that we are merely a small part of a greater natural cycle, and that all events fit into a far wider picture than we can comprehend. If we can see the events in our lives as part of this wider picture, we can hold a gentle and expanded view within ourselves. We can come to appreciate that disappointment may unfold into something that we could never have experienced had we been able to control events in the way that we sometimes think we can, or believe that we should. Expectation takes us out of the present moment, and it does so very effectively. It narrows our field of vision and it closes down the limitless potential that exists in each present moment. The mind only sees what we program it to see, which means at one level that it is actually co-creating our reality and influencing the flow of events, what we experience around us. If we are expecting something bad to happen, we may not actually notice all the good stuff that's happening around us, which means we cannot take advantage of it or even enjoy it. By the same token, if we're expecting something wonderful to happen and it appears not to, we miss out on the potential that is contained in the event before us. We probably all know of someone who is so rooted in the fear of change that they will do anything to keep things the way that they are. They grasp and they cling to their youth or their children, their ancestors or their possessions. When we do not embrace change and we do not allow things to die and decay naturally, we prevent life from renewing itself, sapping our own healthy energy and vigor in the process. There are others who try to avoid disappointment by not really making any form of commitment in the first place. And this is another way in which expectation can subtly undermine us. These guys will move from one thing to another without allowing the natural life cycles to complete themselves. And as a result, they continually get stuck in the same old patterns. And you hear them say, why is this always happening to me? By breaking a cycle before it reaches its natural conclusion, they simply have to begin that same cycle again, albeit in a different form. Negative patterns keep reappearing in life, which can be a disaster in relationship or in finances, or in all areas of life, really. Detachment is a concept that many in the Western world, they find challenging to understand. We often confuse it with being unfeeling or uncaring, cold. But in fact, if you are truly detached, you will feel more intensely than others because you will not allow your expectation to constrict the event that you are actually experiencing. With detachment, you can even enjoy the experience of being disappointed. True detachment has nothing to do with discipline. It cannot be forced through discipline because any forcing of detachment simply creates more attachment. Detachment presupposes a great love and trust in life. It is about working with expectation rather than being a victim to them. And it arises quite naturally of its own accord when we yield and we trust in life. Yielding to life. Fabulous. Trusting in the ebb and flow of events around us allows us to accept, among other things, the growth and the decay of our bodies and our lives. Life is a series of stories or tapestries intricately interwoven with each other. Very often, we cannot immediately see the outcome of a given situation. Our linear understanding tells us that it is connected to a prior situation and it bridges to another situation ahead somewhere in the future. And with this perspective, life can feel a bit like a book. Having a detached perspective allows us to let go of expectation very quickly. And we can be at ease as life continues along its own course in spite of us. We come to realize that if we do not let go quickly, the emotional and mental waters will close over our heads and drown us in torrents of regret and anxiety and self-pity. So detachment represents the process of separating the mind and the emotions. Detachment brings both understanding and healing. Huge understanding and freedom become available to every being who surrenders deeply enough to their life. We learn to accept our own mortality and the intricate flow of events around us. With detachment, we become truly centered in our own being. Life is kind of ordinary, you know. in many ways. I mean, this is it. You know, what is it going on right now? This is life. There is probably nothing special waiting just around the corner. There is just more life. When we accept the ordinariness of life, the gift of detachment can be discovered. And then life can be fully appreciated in all of its shades and with all of its ups and its downs. We let go of control over our life, which is an illusion anyway, in all realms, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And our expectation of life gradually falls into the background. The more we accept ourselves the way we are, the more detached we become, and the simpler life becomes. There are disciplines which advocate a practice of dying before you die. This involves entering the doorway of death deeply enough within ourselves that we discover the profound meaninglessness of existence. As this great truth begins to permeate from the inside out, it literally kills off every aspect of our own identification with what we are. At this point, we realize that we are constantly in a state of dying. Every cell within our body is dying from the moment it is created. So in essence, we're not really alive at all. We are simply a passage through which matter is endlessly converted into energy. When our awareness stops identifying with all this movement and finally comes to rest, well, I think that is the point we actually disappear. I think this is true transcendence. It is rather like sitting by a river and following the currents and eddies with your eyes as they continually appear and disappear from view. Have you ever stopped to watch a river, to simply gaze at it with your peripheral vision? Let your focus be very soft around it. If you try it, you may find that you have a curious experience of timelessness. You may experience that the river no longer has a direction. It simply comes at you and out of you from every part of your being. The movement of life in some senses isn't movement at all. It is the sound of celebration. Celebration is the sound of life. Consider this. There is no way of knowing whether something is being born or something is dying. There is simply the endless pulse as the river of life laughs at the meaninglessness of it all. When the illusion finally drops, we realize that we have always been asleep. Even as we thought we were evolving and we were doing really well at being detached, we were still asleep. We cannot be half awake. We are either asleep or we are awake. In spiritual circles, you often hear the word awakening, as though it were a steady, progressive occurrence from one state to another, but it's not. You're either in the Maya, watching the play, involved in the play, maybe attached to the play, or you are seeing everything in its true state, as constantly moving, consistently changing energy. There is not really anything that you can do to ensure that this will happen. Truly, there is nothing that can be done to trigger this state. This is why there is nothing to do except celebrate life. What else is really left? This kind of celebration is a direct manifestation of true awakening. It is the total acceptance of what it means to be both alive and yet dying inside a human vessel. Change can be confusing, but that's natural, and confusion must always exist before clarity can be achieved. Change is not something that can be mastered or controlled. We can only ride its wave, and in doing so, we get to see what that change can bring. There is so much going on that we cannot grasp in this now moment. Change is not something that can be grasped until it's played out. Indeed, one of the secrets of change is that we have to wait for it to fulfill itself. I read somewhere that we are still not seeing the full effects of the life of Jesus or Julius Caesar or Gandhi or any of the historical figures we feel had such a profound influence on our direction, because the ripples of their lives are still moving outwards. Get out of the way of the river. Allow it to flow and to find its own order. Just watch. Observe. Bring your awareness to life. Change must be honored. And life then happens to you as it does. And it happens correctly, in balance with your nature. Because life is transitory, all life. And life is not personal. You know, it's not positive, it's not negative. Morality does not come into it. It's just happening. As the changes that seem so big and impactful come at us, it's so important to be able to meet them with integrity and with authenticity. We have to know who we are. We have to be able to stand in our own authority and make decisions that will keep us in integrity and authenticity. And it's not always easy. And because it's not easy, it's important to be kind and to be gentle with ourselves as well as with others, especially when we are fearful or anxious, when we feel we can't trust any authority, even our own, when we're being pulled by so many emotions or points of view, when our minds are telling us that we must act now, we must make a decision. But this is actually exactly the time to stand back, to take a walk, or at least take a few breaths, to pause, to wait. Obviously, I'm not talking about situations that are life-threatening. You know, when your house is on fire or a lorry is heading straight for you, that's actually usually when the mind is able to get out of the way really quickly and the body takes over. And we let it do what it needs to do in order to keep the vessel safe. But in the change that we are in now, that we're all experiencing on one level or another, this global situation, this kind of change is one where we can be forgiving and allowing and accepting of ourselves, at least. Because if we cannot give these things to ourselves, we cannot authentically offer them to another. Everything changes. Everything changes. From my human design studies, I read about the gate of crisis. It's a collective gate, which means that it's about sharing. And it is part of the human experiential way. It's about finding out what is of value to everyone through experience. Imagine there is an explorer who sees a nice mushroom on the ground and she picks it and eats it and drops dead. Well, now this is of great benefit to all the others who were mushroom collecting with her, because they can now go and tell other people, hey, look, don't eat that one over there because that'll kill you. And that's how the collective operates. That's what experience is good for, because we didn't always have books and guides and the internet to refer to. The fact of the matter is that what we're experiencing now is the kind of flowering of the so-called information age. All of this is really the flowering of the abstract experiential way. We've been human long enough to have built up a critical mass of information. It's really astonishing how much information is out there. And that is the human experiential way. We've done that. Crisis is necessary for progress. Crisis is, of course, change. There's always change. It will never go away. It can't go away. It's the human way. When change goes away, so go humans, because it's our way. In some ways, there will be nothing but crisis as long as there are humans. So enjoy your change. Enjoy your crisis, because that's what we are here to live out, to experience, to learn from. So I would like to take a moment with you all to go back into the body, to check in, to see what's going on in there. So please settle yourself. Maybe close your eyes if you would like to. And bring your awareness back to the breath again. To that ever-changing stream that enters and leaves the body. You can let go of everything that you've heard. It will settle in its own time. And you'll remember what you need to when you need to. Scan your vessel gently with love, with awareness. You could begin from the hair on top of your head, down to the nails on your toes. There's no hurry, just take some breaths and work your way through the vessel. As you bring your awareness to different parts of the body, notice without judgment any sensations you may pick up. There's no need to tell a story or put a label on these sensations. They don't label themselves. No need for us to do it. Notice any thoughts that are drifting across. Don't need to pay them any more attention than that. Are you aware of any changes since the beginning of the session? Maybe you are feeling a little more sleepy. Maybe you're feeling a little bit stiff from sitting still. There's nothing to do with any of this information. You're just noticing it. Are you able to detach from any sensations and just witness them? Just be with whatever is happening in the body, in this precious vehicle that you ride around in. And truly getting detachment from the vehicle is an excellent thing, because we are not our bodies. We have bodies for sure. We ride around in them. We are not our body. Take a moment here to breathe love into this vehicle. Remember the intelligence that is in every cell. Remember the influence that your attention has on water. And remember the amount of water in these vessels of ours. These bodies love our attention. They love being noticed, because often it's a rare occurrence for them. Just noticing some of the functions. When you get up in the morning, it's the first thing that you do. Is your mind full of your day? Is there immediate anxiety or nervousness as you pick the burdens up that you left beside the table on the floor when you went to bed the night before? Or are you able to take a moment and just appreciate your vessel? Even just a moment. Morning, body. Nice day, huh? Even just that. Just smile for a moment, internally or externally, or both. Keep breathing. And begin to feel the room around you. Become aware of your vessel as you're sitting or lying. Become aware of the temperature of the room that you are in and any sounds that you are hearing. You could rub your hands together and place them over your eyes if you felt you'd like to do that. And when you are ready, take a couple more deep breaths, open your eyes, and come back and join me. It is such a privilege for me to share this information with you, to share my ideas and my meanderings and my wanderings. I'm really grateful for your presence in this space. Thank you for coming. Sitting in the energy that we share together is so lovely.